Hey guys, I am just checking the audio. Can y'all hear me? Well, I can't hear you, so somebody just type in the chat if you can. Thank you. Hey, a couple of you have asked if you're muted up on entry. Yes, so the way that the webinar works is everybody is muted automatically except for the host. So you don't have to worry about muting yourself. And as soon as Kindra hops on, we will get started. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm so good. We did it. Yay. I was kind of stressing because I didn't know, I told you like by now there's like 1,300 people registered.
Can they all come? Can they all get on?
Unfortunately, no, only 1,000. So hopefully all the ones that want to get on can, but I am going to record it and then we'll just put it in the team page.
In the team page. Okay.
Yeah, for people that.
No, so was everybody there? How long ago was that? Last week?
I know, that's my days are running together too. Yes, it was a week ago tomorrow, or no, a week ago today.
It was
right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And the skincare, congratulations.
Thank you.
So exciting. My husband just said, he's like, Kindra, they sold $4 million already?
Yes. Is that insane?
Crazy. It's so
exciting. I mean, and that was just like in 36 hours. So I'm sure we've sold more skincare since then.
Gosh.
Yes, it's just phenomenal. And it's amazing. Like, I'm a total skincare person. Yeah. I always have been, taking really good care of my skin. And so it's just really, really good. And so it's really exciting.
Now, can they see us right now?
They can see us, but we can't see them. I know, it's new for me too. I've never done a webinar. I always do Zooms, regular meetings. So everybody can see everybody.
Oh, can they hear me too? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they can hear you.
Oh, wait, so I shouldn't say, hi guys. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Gosh, this is so exciting.
Yes. So it is 9:02, so we will go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to introduce you guys to Kindra. For those of you that haven't seen her, so I am Stephanie Mize. I'm an executive director from Houston, Texas. And you guys, I'm so excited that you joined because this is phenomenal. I don't know if you heard us say, but we actually ran out of space, which is a really good problem to have. So if you have some friends or teammates or whatever that tried to get on or tried to get registered and did not get a link, please don't stress out about it. Let them know that it is being recorded, and we're actually going to, we'll send out the link to the recording once, probably either later this evening or maybe even tomorrow. But it's very important, you guys, that it stays in the team pages. So, you know, this is Kindra's livelihood. And so we don't want this put out in the public. We don't want it put out on YouTube or anything of that nature. So just make sure that once you get the recording, it stays in the team pages. So I appreciate you guys being here. And Kindra, I appreciate you being here. I know you're super busy with your launch coming up, and so we really appreciate you taking your time. So for those of you guys that don't know Kindra, I guess it was probably about maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago, corporate had introduced her as one of our keynote speakers at Monations. And so I had heard a little bit about Kindra, but I didn't know her that well. And so I went and followed her on Instagram. And so I followed her for like last 4, 5, 6 months. And you guys, she's phenomenal. When you hear her speak, she's just so full of life and energy, and she's just real. And she doesn't know this yet, but we're practically best friends. Like, I follow everything that she does. I know her kids, I know her husband, and so she's just super genuine and amazing. And so and as far as her day job, like, Kindra is a professional storyteller. And let me look at my notes here, because I don't want to mess this up. She's a professional storyteller, and she is the president and chief storytelling officer at Stellar Collective, which is a consulting firm focused on strategic application of storytelling in today's business challenges. Her clients include Hilton Hotels, Target. I know a lot of you guys, that makes you very excited. Facebook, the Harvard Medical School, and many, many companies in the direct selling industry, where she actually teaches people to harness and leverage the power of their stories. She's also a former director of marketing and VP of sales. She's a contributing editor to Success Magazine, and her book, Stories That Sell, will actually be released by HarperCollins Leadership later this month. Look at it. It's so colorful. I love it. And I actually have I don't want to say a bootleg copy, but I have a printed copy, and it's amazing, and you guys are going to love it. She also, like I mentioned, she lives in Manhattan with her husband and her 2 kids. And she says that while she'll never win the bake sale at her kids' school, she is always a welcome guest reader in their classrooms. You guys, same. Like, I'm never going to win a bake sale, and that's why I say we're best friends. So I'm not winning any cooking competitions. Yeah. But for those of you that were at Monations, you guys know that she's an incredible speaker, and she really left an imprint on our hearts, right? And so she talked about the different ways to tell stories, and you guys maxed out the Zoom call tonight. I mean, so you love her. For those of you that were not at Monations, first of all, I want to say that we missed you. And then secondly, you guys are in for a really huge treat tonight. I had so many people come up to me afterwards and say that Kindra really just empowered them to feel comfortable and confident in sharing their story. And also, you know, Kindra said this during her talk, but I think so many of us allude to our stories, but we never actually tell it. And so tonight, Kindra is actually going to teach us why storytelling is so important. She's going to teach us the 4 components to a great story, and she's even going to share some storytelling do's and don'ts with us. So without further ado, you guys grab your pen and paper and get ready.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. And I love seeing you, since I can't see like in the grid. Like, it's so fun to see the chat. So this is so great. Hi guys, I love it. And it is a little weird because I'm like in my PJs. I mean, it's 10 o'clock here, so I feel like we're like having dinner together, except I didn't make it. I definitely ordered it in, if that's the case. Oh, but I have to say, that day at Monations, I will just never forget. Like, it was to look out and to see all of you, and to feel you. It was a very special moment. It was a very special day. So thank you so much for welcoming me there. And then your continued like support and comments and messages. I just feel like part of my heart, my very purple heart, is with you. So, and congratulations on a huge launch. I was so proud of myself that I didn't like accidentally say something about it. I didn't really know anything about it, but I knew that something was happening, and so I was really glad that I didn't like say anything. But tonight, what I want to do is, since I know that many of you were at the event, and some of you weren't, I wanted to do kind of like a little hybrid. So a little bit of going deeper, like touching on some of the things that maybe we talked about at Monations, but also going a little bit deeper since so many of you were there, and I think you're ready for it. Like I've been watching the stories that you've been posting. Many of you have been tagging me in your posts and sharing your stories, and I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of the work that you've already done. But as you heard at Monations, like storytelling has been a passion of mine, and really, I guess what I would say is storytelling has been my default form of communication since I was a kid. I told my first story when I was 11. I won't tell you the whole story here, but we had an assignment in 5th grade to go read a book to a 3rd grade class. And so I chose my book, and I remember walking into the classroom, and it was right at the end of the day, and the kids were bouncing off the walls, and the teacher just wanted to put them all on a bus and send them far, far away. And so I really had the cards stacked against me. Like, how do you gain the attention of a room full of 3rd graders? And it's almost as difficult as like trying to gain attention in the chaos that is social media and just life in general. So I remember I put the book down and I just told the story, and it took 2 sentences, maybe 3. You've probably seen this before. Like if any of you are teachers or if you have kids at home, as soon as you start telling a story, which is what happened, it's like everything, like I just held them in the palm of my hand. And I was really keen to the idea. In that very moment, I was like, wait a minute, something just happened here. And I didn't let go of it. I kept telling stories. Now I got to tell you a little, we might take a few storytelling, I don't want to call them detours, but little frontage roads, okay? Because we know each other, we're friends. You get to see the 10 o'clock, this is the 10 o'clock version, but I've only been drinking water, so you don't have to worry about that. But my son said to me, actually, because my kids were at Monations, which was really special as well. He came into my room tonight and said, Mama, I need to ask you something about your stories. I was like, okay. He's 8, but he was so serious. And he said, you said on stage that your principal told you that you should keep telling stories. And so you did, and now you're here. He's like, but you left out a lot of the story. Like a lot happened in between being in 5th grade and becoming an author and being where you are now. And he is correct. And I think that's an important thing to note, that we all have a lot to our stories. We all have a lot of stories to choose from. But since that moment when I was 11 and when I was in 5th grade, story really became my default. So I would tell, like whenever I had to write a paper, like in college, I always started my research papers with a story. Now, one research paper, I didn't really know what else to say. I didn't do the research. I didn't do my homework. Sometimes I just didn't. And so I just wrote the whole paper as a story. And that the professor wrote, I really liked the story, but this was a research paper. So I tested the limits there. But really just using stories all the time. And one time in particular that I remember, I don't know if I shared this story with you or not, so I'll share it here, and forgive me if I already did. But several years ago, I was a spin instructor. So I taught spin class. And one of the most stressful things about teaching a spin class is not the exercise itself. I mean, you also have to like mess with the lights, and you're kind of like a lighting engineer plus a DJ. And the DJing was the hardest part, because to be a spin instructor, you have to choose the right music and hope that people like it and like want to work out to it. And I remember when I first got started, I was like, oh man, I don't know if people are going to want to work out to Britney Spears. I mean, who doesn't want to work out to Britney Spears? Come on. But I thought it was maybe they would want to, or Spice Girls. Spice Girls have some good songs for spinning, or like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. And so I was a little nervous. And I remember, so what I would do is when I would be nervous about a song, I would tell a story. So one day we were going to spin to the song. by Kylie Minogue. I Can't Get You Out of My Head, I think is the name of it. And so before I played the song, I said, now I got to tell you a story about this song. And the story was from before I was even dating my now husband, but I knew. I was like, oh, I will marry him. He just didn't know it yet. And so he and I were actually working together. We worked together, and the boss came in and was like, hey, we need somebody to go pick up Michael from the airport. And I was like, oh, yeah, I suppose I could fit that. Suppose I could fit that in. I'll volunteer. And so, because I thought like putting him in my car, maybe I could convince him to fall in love with me. So I remember pulling up to the airport in my silver Grand Am, just as Michael was coming out into the curb with his suitcase. And he opened the door. Well, I rolled down all the windows and I had my music playing, and he opened the door and he got in, and right at the chorus where it went, I just can't get you out of my head. Boy, your loving is all I think about. Because I wanted to be settled. So I told that story, and then I played the song, and we all spun to the song, and it was great and it was fun. And what ended up happening over time is my spin classes just simply started selling out. There would be a waiting line, and when I finished teaching spin, because now I consider myself a retired spin instructor, the response I got was, we'll miss the workouts, yes, but what we're really going to miss are your stories. And the reason I tell you that is because I think this is so important for you to know and grasp, but most importantly, to believe in your heart that the stories are what they're going to come for. Like the stories are the things that are going to keep them coming back. The stories are the things that are going to have them like tuning in to your page and wanting to join your team and drawing you in to what Monade is all about. The stories are the things that are going to make that happen. The stories are what we want to hear. And yes, did you hear that horn? That is New York for you. There you go. And so yes. Like it is more work. It is more work to tell stories. All right. It on your Instagram post, when you're talking to your team, when you're trying to put your thoughts together for a small presentation or a big presentation, maybe it's at a regional event or at the big conference or whatever it is harder to tell stories, but that is the thing that people want to hear. That's the thing that they come back for. So tonight, what I really want to do is spend some time again talking about why storytelling is so important for those of you who weren't at the conference. But then I also want to talk about something we didn't discuss at all at convention, and that is the 4 key components that your stories need. These are the things that you need to include in your stories to make them great. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And then lastly, I want to give you a few do's and don'ts for using stories, in particular on social media. Which reminds me, what I'm going to do right now before I forget is I'm going to give you my Instagram handle. So that's my Instagram, at Kindra Hall. So come follow me. I tell a lot of stories there. And then I think on Facebook, I think I'm like facebook.com/Kindra Hall fan. I think that's my Facebook. Okay, so let's talk briefly now about why storytelling is so important. And the first reason is this. Stories have the ability to communicate the true value of what it is you offer. And this is a really critical time for you to get your stories straight because of the launch of the new skincare line, right? Like this is like, how do you explain how incredible this skincare line is when the stories we don't have that many stories about it. It's brand new, right? So you are the ones that need to be telling the stories to illustrate the value. So the reality is when you are talking to people about Monade, you have a couple different options of how you talk to them. You can talk to them about what the products are and what they do and what the different options are and what the different steps are in the skincare system. When we were together, I told you about that friend. Oh man, I wonder if I still have those text messages. I'd have to go look back. That I had seen, and this was several years ago, so it was a pretty new company, but I had seen her, and she was talking about her hair, and her hair did look really sparkly and beautiful. And I've been bleaching my hair for, I don't know. I do remember though. Okay, so here's one of those frontage road stories. I was thinking about this. I remember the first time, so I was in graduate school when I got my hair highlighted for the first time. And I remember looking in the mirror when she was done and being like, what just happened? Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. That looks awful on me. That looks, who do I think I am? I'm not a blonde. I'm not a blonde. I have brown hair. Like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Now I have a light, they call it dark blonde. So apparently, and I have blonde highlights, but I felt very self-conscious. And I remember getting in my car and I had to go to class. Like I was taking a test, and I pulled up to a stoplight. And I was in the right-hand lane, so I looked to my right and then I looked to my left because I was going to turn. And there was a guy, like a cute college guy in the car next to me. And I was looking to see if there was traffic coming. And he was looking at me like this. And I was like, wait, what? As I pulled away, I thought, well, maybe blondes do have more fun. No, I'm just, so okay, so there's a side story, right? Like those moments of like what our hair means to us. But I reached out to my friend because I wanted a new hair care line, and I just wanted her to say, oh my gosh, this is great. This is what it's done for me. I love this. I remember the first time I tried it. This is what you need. And I would have bought anything. I would have bought anything she told me to buy. But instead, she went through all the details of the different ways, and then use this one, and then use this one, and then layer this one in, and then do this, and then it was like, and then it was voice to text, and it just got so complicated. When really all I wanted was her story. I wanted the story of the incredible value of what this has, of what these products can do in my life. So I want you to think back to, and especially with your skin, like what has been. Like, man, I was thinking about this last night as I was trying to fall asleep because I knew that we were going to be on the call together. And I was trying to think about skin moments in my life where challenges with my skin really hindered me. Now, I'd always had pretty clear skin, but I remember one time I got this big red pimple right here, but I wasn't wearing glasses. And it was right before prom. And I was going to prom with this guy who was just wonderful. But it really like ruined my night because I just felt so self-conscious and uncomfortable in my own skin. And now, of course, I only had to deal with that. It wasn't a regular thing, but if you're someone who has struggled with this skin over moments throughout the course of your life, like the value of this product is so much more than the science of what's in the bottle. The value is confidence and believing in yourself and liking what you see in the mirror and not second guessing when somebody looks at you if what they're really looking at is your face or the bags under your eyes or whatever it is. And so the stories are the thing that are going to communicate the value, and not only the value of the products, not only the value of the opportunity, but I know now after having spent some time with you that this is so much more than even that. Like this community, this group of positive, wonderful, forward thinking, and not afraid to step out of their herd and carve their own path of women. Like the value of being around those people, that can only be expressed through stories that you share to really allow people to feel the essence of that. So choose some of the moments, if you were there in Columbus, that really stood out to you, where maybe it was a late night and you were up in the hallway you were sitting out in the hallway of the hotel chit-chatting with someone from another team, or those specific moments throughout that course that illustrate the value of this community. Okay, so that's the number one. Stories to communicate the true value of what this is all about. Number two, this is really important for you to understand. and I know you know it to be true, people are buying you. They're buying you. They're buying who you are. They're buying the person you present, whether it's at live events or meet monates or sipping what is it? Sipping suds? What's it called? Type it in the chat. I know what I can't remember it. Wine and wash. That's what it is. Sipping suds. Okay, good. Champagne and chip. Well, you have a whole variety, bubbles and blows. Oh, now I want some champagne. We are, oh my gosh, I know, look at you all. Mochas and Monets. Oh my gosh. Okay. Marks and Monet. Waffles and wash? Champs and champs? Beers and beards. All right, Angela, that is a good, yes. Oh, I've heard about what this is. Oh, you guys, you should have Monet and Moet. That's, like you could put the poo goo in you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now we could do this all night, couldn't we? Yes. And there's 428 of you. We can do it all night. All right. So here's the thing that you have to remember. People are buying you. They're buying your stories that you share at these events. They're buying you. How many of you watched for a while? Like you watched somebody, you followed them, like you were reading their posts, you were watching their stories, like you were creepy, you were following, that you were there, and it was over time that then you said yes, right? Like that you were like, oh, I feel, and why? Because you felt connected to them. Like how many of you showed up at convention and you felt like you saw these people that you never met, you've never actually even talked to, and yet you feel like you are friends, like you know each other. Like I hope that you feel like you know me, and that is the key here, because people aren't just saying yes to the products, they're not saying yes to the business, they're saying yes to you. They want to join you. And that's a unique thing about this business, and especially if you're using social media. So how do we decide that? How do we buy somebody? How do we choose someone? Well, we choose them because we feel like we know them. We feel like we can connect to them. We feel like we relate to them. How do we know if we connect to them or relate to them? The fastest way to let them know how they can connect with you is by sharing your stories. That's how we get to know people. That's how we feel that we're like somebody, when we can share in a story, and the good stories and the struggles. But if you're not telling them, you're not giving them a chance to really say yes to you. So don't hold your stories back. You are hindering yourself if that is the case. Okay, so those are just a few of the reasons that storytelling is such an important thing in this business in particular, and why you shouldn't be holding your stories back. But now what I'd like to do is actually talk to you a little bit about 4 key components that your stories need to have. Now, when we were at convention, we talked about that 3-part formula, right? Normal, explosion, new normal. But what I'd like to do tonight is give you a little bit more information, more in depth of the components that make a great story. Because there is an art and there is a science to creating a story. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the 4 key components. I'm going to list them out so you can write them down, and then I'll talk about each one, because I know if I were I have to list them out first, otherwise you're going to, do we have any type A people on the call? Anyone? Me, right? Yeah, so you're gonna be writing them down, be like, wait, I didn't get all those yesterday. Okay, she's already waiting for see, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a list of things to do, and then we're gonna add some things to that list that we've already done, and then we're gonna cross it off, because that's just how fun it is. All right, so let's talk about those. I'll give you the 4, and then we'll come back and talk about them. So in no particular order, the first component is identifiable characters. You need identifiable characters in your story. See, now I wish this was like a champagne or a wine or a margarita. Okay, identifiable characters. Number 2, you need authentic emotion in your story. Authentic emotion. Number 3, you need a moment in your story. a moment, a specific place, a time. And then number 4, specific details in the story. All right, so let's start with number 1. Oh, this chair is not very comfortable. Okay, let's start with number 1, which is identifiable characters. Now, this is kind of easy. This is I don't want to say it's easy, but you have an advantage here in your entrepreneur as an entrepreneur, okay, because you are building your own individual brand, whereas companies like Hilton or Target, they have a harder time with this part because they have to think on this big brand level, and it's really easy for them to get disconnected from the individual characters that make up the bigger company. You don't have that problem. Your business is about characters. It's about you. It's about the people on your team. It's about your customers that you serve. It's about maybe your friends and your family. So you've already got that taken care of. Those are the identifiable characters. But one thing that I'd like to add to this is when you're telling your stories, and let's say it's a story about yourself, add items in as you're building up the character of who you are. Because remember, when someone's reading this story, maybe it's on social media, they're hearing you tell it, they're getting to know you as the character. Like this is a way to introduce you and all the different sides of you to your audience. So one of the things I want you to do is include the nuances that will give them a deeper understanding of who you are as a person. So for example, when I was telling you the story about spin class, I told you about that I was nervous about the songs that I played, and I could have said, the hardest part about teaching a spin class is, oh, there's a storm happening to Catherine. Just read my lips. Okay, so what I could have done when I told you that story was to say, when I was teaching spin class, the hardest thing is choosing the music. And so I would always tell a story with the songs that I played. But the fact that I told you about, who are my Britney Spears fans? Come on, there's got to be some of you. Britney Spears fans, yeah, there they are, they're there, right? Duh, she's the best. I had a whole dance made up for Lucky. Yeah, I did it again. Here we go. Right, yeah. Okay, so when I told you that I was a Britney Spears fan, when I told you that I wanted to play the Spice Girls or the Backstreet Boys, any of those things, you got to know me better. You know more about me as a person. Whereas I think if I had said I was playing Evanescence and Audio Slave, which I did play that from time to time too, hard rock songs, you would have had a different image of who I was. So those nuances that paint the picture of who you are, the essence of who you are really important as you're telling your stories. So be sure to include that. Oh, Britney Spears was your first concert? That's really cool. I went to a Britney Spears concert too. All right, so the second component was authentic emotion. And to this, I want to draw your attention to the fact that I said authentic emotion. I didn't say dramatic emotion. I didn't say over the top emotion. I didn't say it had to be some huge obstacle or some grand tragedy. I said authentic, human, real, everyday emotion. And we talked about this a little bit at the conference, and I think where some stories go wrong is we think they aren't made for the big screen, right? Like that they need to be dramatic and grand in order for someone to listen to them. But how many of you felt more than 3 emotions today? Yeah, exactly. I had 3 emotions. I had exhaustion, I felt, right? I had a moment the other day where, and I mean, listen to all the emotions that are coming back to me, right? And this is the thing, is we have little. I had a moment of pride today. I had a moment of unease today. I had emotion that was frustration. Today I had a moment of joy and pride when my son came in and was asking me about my stories. And these are the things. What you're trying to do with your stories is to connect to people. And people have emotions throughout the day. And those small emotions are just a part of the human experience. And the more that you are willing to share those emotions and tap into those emotions and share your experiences, include those in your stories, the more you will draw people in, the more they will connect with you. So authentic emotion is an important part of your stories, and it doesn't have to be big or grand. It just needs to be real. Number 3, a story needs to have a moment in it. Now, oftentimes we can, and this connects to what Stephanie said at the top of the call, is we tend to allude to our stories. We stay too high level. We don't really bring people to a place and a time, but bringing them to a specific place and a time so they can see where they're sitting and they can see what they're feeling, or they can see the scene unfolding before their eyes. That's a really critical part of a story. And so putting them in a specific place and time is so important. I'll share a story. Since we're moving into skincare, this happened a couple of years ago. I met a woman who had great results with a skincare line. She was telling me about it. We were waiting in line to check in at a hotel, and she was like, "Oh, I just had such great results, and I always struggled with acne as a kid and in high school, and now at 50 years old, my skin looks better than it ever has." Okay, like it was fine, and I'm sure it was truthful. But then I think her name was Beatrice. I think it was Beatrice. But then I asked her a little bit more about it, and she told me about her high school prom and how badly she had wanted to go, but she'd always felt so self-conscious about her skin. She just felt so uncomfortable in her skin. And it turns out there was a boy who did invite her to prom. He was just one of her friends, and he was so sweet and kind, and he told her she was beautiful, but she just never really felt that way. And so she got the dress and she fixed her hair, and they went to prom together. And she remembers while everybody else was dancing, she was sitting on the wooden bleachers watching them, just not really feeling worthy of dancing, not feeling confident enough to do it. And it was such a sad moment for her. But then, and trust me, it was a very long hotel check-in line. But then she came back and she said, "Man, and now I feel like I'm queen of the prom every day." Now, isn't that, like, even as I tell you that story, like, weren't you picturing like the high school gymnasium or like the place where you went to prom? You could see this girl sitting in a pink dress on the bleachers. Like, that is the power of that component. And that's what I want you to do as you're telling your story. I want you to get all the way, at one point in your story, I went all the way down. At one point in your story, I want you to narrow all the way down to a specific place, time. Maybe it's sitting at your desk. Maybe it's standing in your shower. Maybe it's, you don't want people to come into your shower with you. Okay. But in the story you do. Okay. So have your story come to a specific moment. And then the last of the 4 components is specific details. And really the ultimate goal with all of these components, what we're using them to do is to drive what I call the co-creative process, where we draw people in. We have them picturing in their minds the story so that they're right there with you, so that it becomes It's not just your story, it becomes their story as well. And one of the ways that you do this is by including specific details throughout the telling of the story. So, question for you. How many of you, and I want you to write it in the chat, remember the kind of car I was driving when I pulled up to pick Michael up at the airport? Write what it was. Grand Am. Good. Grand Am, Grand Am, Silver Grand Am, Grand Am, Grand Am, Grand Am, Silver Grand Am. Yeah, look at you guys. This is crazy. Oh, you're so good at this. I don't even know how you can type that fast. How do you type that fast? Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. Okay, so right, yes. It was a silver Grand Am. Heather used to be a secretary. Smart. It was a silver Grand Am. Now think about this. Like when you're thinking back on this story, that didn't necessarily, you weren't conscious of the fact that that was standing out to you. You weren't conscious of the fact that 30 minutes later, I was going to ask you about the type of car and windows down. Yeah, and you were going to remember it. But that's the power of using specific details in your stories. Put them in there because people listen to it and it becomes a part of the bigger whole. So whatever those details are, like in this case, it was a car. But I've done it before where I described, I was telling a story about something and I was talking about the My Little Pony Dream Castle. Did any of you grow up in the 80s? Do you remember the My Little Pony Dream Castle that had the little goblets that came with it? Oh my gosh. And the comments that I got, about that, like My Little Pony Dream Castle. See, look at this. So by being very specific in your details, you'll draw people in and drive that co-creative process further. All right, so now what I'd like to do, and I should tell you, okay, so that was just like a high level overview. Stories that stick, and this is the real book. Like this is the hardcover. They sent it to me and I already smudged it. I took it out of my bag the other day when I was on a flight and I just kind of held it and looked at it to see what it would look like on a plane. It looked good. It kind of shines right there. Anyway, so I go into a lot more detail about the components, about the 4 different story types in Stories That Stick. I'm so excited for you to get it. I saw that so many of you are already pre-ordered it, which is just awesome. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is give you a few do's and don'ts as far as telling your stories, particularly on social media. And I think I already put my Instagram handle in there. Here, I'll do it again, just in case. KindraHall.com, because actually there's a few things in here that I want to show you, just even on my Instagram. So a few do's and don'ts. Let's start with a don't. Don't assume that your stories always have to be about Monat, okay? Or always have to be about the product, or that you always have to be telling stories about the opportunity. They don't always have to be your story. You don't always have to be telling stories about Monat, okay? You can be telling stories because remember, people buy you. So they want to know you. They want to know all the different parts of you. If you are an avid runner, if you love to garden, if you are a movie buff, if you're the world's greatest aunt or a single mom, or if you're going to school to finish up a degree, whatever it is, people want to know. They want to know you. That's one of the beautiful things that's happened now in business. Is we demand transparency. We demand wanting in a good way. Like we want to know the whole picture. Now you get to dictate what stories you tell and what stories you don't, and that is entirely up to you. But don't be afraid to tell stories about, like if you're a huge pet person. I am not a pet person. I should tell. Here's a funny. Oh, my daughter, her birthday's on Sunday, and she wants a pet anything. She has asked for a pet rat. She's wanted a pet mouse. She wanted a pet elephant after watching Dumbo. She wants a cat. She wants a dog. She wants anything. But we live in an apartment and we travel all the time. So a pet is just not in the cards for us right now. So when we were at the beach this summer and there was a rock, it was like this big, it was like a stone, It was calico colored. Like it actually looked like a calico cat. So I'm a horrible mother or a great one. So I picked up the rock and I brought it home, and I told her that this could be her pet. She's like, it's a rock. It's a pet rock. We will name her Susan. And so, so I told her that we could like put a leash on it, we could bring it around Central Park, like walk it around Central Park, and she laughs and she gets so mad, and so now we have our pet Susan. Anyway, so clearly I am not going to necessarily connect with the pet people, but we want to know all those stories. So don't be afraid to share stories that are outside of the business. Also, don't, and I mentioned this earlier, and we talked a lot about this at the event where we were together. Don't not tell your story because you don't think it's big enough. Don't wait to tell your story until it's something bigger. Small stories make a big difference, and you have no idea the impact even just a small story about your life could make in someone else's. I hear a lot about this story that I posted, and I'll post it in my stories actually tonight. It was a story about my husband and Maroon 5. Well, now I just spoiled the story, but it was a small story from his life, but it carried such a big message, and that's the beauty of storytelling, is you can take really small things that happen in your life, and if you tell the story right, you can give them so much meaning. So don't hold back on your stories because you think they're too small. Even small stories matter a lot. A few do's: do use a lot of words. Now, let me clarify that. I know that you may be hesitant and be like, well, I don't want to take up, like, go too long, or like, I want to keep my caption short on social media. But here's the thing: how many of you have ever been reading a post and it was telling a story, like you were into it, and at the end it said continue in comments, right? What do? You continue in the comments, right? Like, if they're telling a story and they've got the components, and you're in it with the emotion, and you're identifying with the character, and they've got the details in it, and you're right there in the moment, and then you go continue to the comments, you're going to go with it. I had this happen the other day. I was reading this guy's post. He was telling a story and it said continue in the comments, but there were 4,000 comments. I spent 10 minutes sifting through the comments trying to find the rest of the story, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find 10. I do not have 10 minutes to spare, okay? And I spent them trying to find the comments, the rest of the story in his comments. So it's okay. If you're telling a story, it's okay to use the whole space. They'll give you their attention if you're telling a story. All right, and then the last do that I want to give you is just to do this. If you didn't do it right after convention, then do it now. Choose a picture that you are maybe going to post tomorrow, and instead of just posting it with a quick little caption, think about a story that you could tell. Choose a moment from being at convention. Choose the moment the first time you got a compliment on your hair after using the products. Choose one instance throughout the experience of your career and share a story. Share a story tomorrow. Okay, that's your challenge. Share a story tomorrow or tonight if you're on the Pacific time, because you have no excuse. Okay, so we are at the end of the time together. I did want to give you a little special something for pre-ordering the book. I told you that, I love this. You have my brain daydreaming with all of the stories I could tell. I hope that's the case. Here's the thing. It's like, that's one thing. So I'll just say this here. Wait, first I'm going to tell you about this, and then I have something else to tell you. Stories That Stick, yay, comes out on Tuesday. 5 more days. I heard that I think it's like #1 new release in sales and selling or something right now, which is awesome. There are a lot of big books coming out this week. And I got to tell you, I haven't told this to anybody yet. Nobody knows this except for like my husband and my children. I want to be on a bestseller list. I hate saying it out loud because there's a possibility that it isn't, there's a possibility that that won't happen. And it's hard to put big goals out there when there's the possibility that it won't happen. And your pre-orders make that possible. So I know some of you asked, because you weren't at Monations, if you can pre-order. Yes, yes, yes. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to right now go to Amazon.com. You can pre-order it there. You can go to Target.com. Yes, speak life into it, right? Yes, like it's okay. So go to Target.com. If you go to Target.com, you might end up buying more things than you intended because that's what happens at Target. But pre-order the book. So just go and do that. And then once you do that, I want you to take like a screenshot of the, okay, let me see. I want you to take a screenshot of your confirmation that says like, okay, your order is complete. And then I want you to go to this website, storiesthatstick.com. It's going to tell you to pre-order. And then the next step says, enter your information here to get bonuses. So you're going to get additional bonuses. You're going to get a bookmark. I'm going to mail that to you. I'm going to mail you this, which is my autograph. I'm going to write your name on it. I'm going to write a little note to you. If you already did this after convention, you don't have to do it again. But this is how you get the autograph. So when your book comes in 5 days, you can stick this in there and then you'll have a signed copy. That's it. Stephanie. Oh no, there was one more thing that I wanted to tell you. Okay, so I was keeping you in suspense. Here's something about the, somebody said, I have so many stories that I could tell. And that's exactly how I want you to feel. And there is one thing that I feel like happens a lot in this business is the why story, right? Like, what's your why story? What's your why story? But it can put a lot of pressure on you to just choose one story. Here's the thing. We have hundreds of stories in our lives that we could at any given moment tell. And I think taking the pressure off of one big story is really important. So start with some small stories. Start with some little things that happen to you today. Some of my favorite stories, some of the stories that get the best engagement even on my social media are little stories that are the conversations that happened with my son or my daughter or something that happened at an event or someone I met, things that just happen daily throughout your life. And so putting the pressure on one big story, let's take the pressure off. Just start telling all the stories and watch the world and the people around you change. Because once you start telling your story, you give other people permission to tell theirs. And that is a gift. Okay, now I am done. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Stephanie. Yay.
Oh my gosh, y'all, was she amazing? Like, seriously, Kindra. I didn't know I knew what we were going to get was going to be amazing, but I love that you gave us something that we didn't necessarily have last week. Plus, it was still something that is very valuable for people that didn't have the opportunity to see you. So thank you for hopping on. And you guys, I want to leave you with this because several people have asked, they're like, how did you get Kindra Hall to talk to our team? And one of my really good friends, she asked me that. I go, I just asked, and she goes, you just asked. And so it really made me think, like, how many times are we not asking people about the opportunity, about the products, about whatever? And so the answer is always no until we ask. And so I asked Kindra, she said yes, and then she came on and spoke to all of you, which has been absolutely amazing. So you just have to ask sometimes.
Well, and I'll say too, you asked, but you also commit, like you stepped up. Like I said, okay, are we gonna have a lot of people there? And you're like, we will get this done. And look at and so you asked, but you also delivered. And I think you should all have faith in that, because if you ask, you can deliver too. I mean, you've got the products, you've got everything you need, we'll deliver on the other end. See your foot's in the background.
I know.
So cute.
He's asleep. He's trying to sleep on my.
Oh my God.
He's tired.
Oh, I love that.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good
everyone.
night, friends.
Good night.
Bye.